Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. Here's what we have in the bulletin. Farmers now reeling under the impact of the Rio Cobra contamination. Manhunt underway for 4 detainees who escaped police lockup in St. Anne. And later in sports, Jamaica hunts more medals at World Under-20 Championships and Commonwealth Games. I'm Kelisha Williams and here are the details. From fisher folk to farmers, this afternoon we hear how the Rio Cobra contamination has been affecting another group of people in the agricultural sector. As you hear in this report, hundreds of pounds of fruits and vegetables have been perishing on farmlands. It's a race against time. Farmers in Salt Pond, St. Catherine, rushing to reap crops as their only water source dries up.
The effect of the lack of water is burning up the fruits on the tree. This is 2 acres of sweet pepper, costing somewhere in the region of $1.2 million to establish. And for this farmer to get back his money out of it, he needs to have the consistent supply of water.
These parched farmlands are ripple effects of the Rio Cobra contamination. The farmers here get water from these canals that are connected to the Spanish Town water treatment plant, but the pollution has forced the plant closed.
I've not had any water since Sunday. As soon as I turn off the pumping station because of the spill, the water supply for me has ended immediately.
Even though Dwayne Duncan's farm is close to this dam, the pressure is not strong enough to take the water to his farm.
Probably about 400 to 500 meters from this dam here, and the channel that would carry water to my farm is currently dry.
Add that to the sweltering heat and limited rain, and it appears as if these crops have not been watered in months. And with every hour that goes by, the losses are climbing into the millions.
Watermelon usually take anywhere between 8 and 10 weeks to be ready for reaping. I'm currently in my 5th or 6th week. So I'm right in the critical time when I need the water and so on. I've already gone almost a week without water. I'm sure that I've lost that crop entirely.
Okay, so that's how we lose a 2-acre field right now. Because it's a 2-acre field right now. And that's so 1 more week left on it to finish off, so because he lose the leaf, so we now get a full production out of it.
How about how much money last year you're looking right here, sir?
Call about 3 mil.
Which is why the farmers are appealing to the government to step in.
So we need somebody to get some money from Windalco to directly compensate the farmers who have taken this loss.
And Prime Minister Andrew Holness is to make a statement today on the latest contamination of the Rio Cobra in St. Catherine. Mr. Holness disclosed that he has been briefed by the National Environment and Planning Agency, NEPA. He said he is to get further information today before commenting on the matter.
Later on, I'll be speaking with Minister Shaw to get the other perspective on the matter from the mining perspective. The government has to, especially in our period of independence, assure the nation that our environmental assets must be protected. And the process has begun. So today, later on, I'll be making a statement on that.
Mr. Holness was speaking today on TVJ's Smile Jamaica program. NEPA is to host a media briefing at 2 o'clock this afternoon on the Rio Cobra pollution. A manhunt is underway for 4 detainees who escaped from the Ocho Rios police lockup in St. Anne this morning. The men were discovered missing around 1 o'clock during a routine cell check. They are 40-year-old Terence Harrelal of Charlemont, St. Anne, who is charged with shooting with intent, and 42-year-old Dennis Colbert of Islington, St. Mary, who is charged with rape. The other men are charged with illegal possession of firearm. They are 22-year-old Javar Grant of Prairie, St. Anne, and 30-year-old Jermaine Rogers of Mile End in Ocho Rios, St. Anne. Preliminary investigations indicate that implements were used to cut sections of the metal gates of the cells, allowing the prisoners to escape. Two men were shot and killed by an off-duty policeman in Kitson Town, St. Catherine last night during a robbery attempt. TVJ News was informed that about 9 o'clock, three armed men attempted to rob patrons at a bar in the Paul Mountain community. They were challenged by an off-duty policeman, and this led to an exchange of gunfire. One of the suspects was fatally shot and a gun seized. The other men jumped into an awaiting motor car and sped away from the scene. Now, it's understood that during a search by the St. Catherine North Police, the vehicle was found abandoned in the Freitas Content community with the body of another suspect inside. Both suspects were pronounced dead at hospital. Indicom is probing the incident. Two men who are said to be members of a bike-stealing ring in Westmoreland were killed last night. Reports are that about 7:30 p.m., the men attempted to steal motorcycles in an area known as Nigger Spot when they were attacked and killed by residents. One of the deceased men has been identified as Devon Hendricks of a Salt Spring address. The identity of the other man is unknown. There will be a special joint sitting of the Senate and House of Representatives today in commemoration of the 60th anniversary of Jamaica's independence. The sitting will feature an address from Governor General Sir Patrick Allen, along with presentations from Prime Minister Andrew Holness and Opposition Leader Mark Golding. Speaker of the House of Representatives Marissa Dalrymple Philibert and Senate President Tom Tavares Finson will also address the sitting. As part of the 60th anniversary celebration, Mr. Holness and Mr. Golding will unveil a plaque during the proceedings. Attendees will arrive ahead of the 2 o'clock start of the sitting, with the fanfare that is associated with the special state events. And it's now time for a break, but stay with us. More stories when we return. Welcome back to the Midday News, and thanks for staying with us. Yet another indication from the government that corporal punishment will soon be outlawed in Jamaica. The signal comes as Prime Minister Andrew Holness outlined the legislative moves being made to help change the culture of violence in Jamaica. More in this report.
The high levels of crime and violence impacting the country has its roots in how some Jamaican children are disciplined. That's the view of Prime Minister Andrew Holness, and it is why he's again sending the signal to the country.
We are also reviewing the Child Care and Protection Act. And in that act, we will make an amendment to ban corporal punishment in Jamaica.
The Prime Minister explained that changing the corporal punishment law is important, as it will make clear to the people that violence is not needed in administering discipline or resolving conflicts. In addition, the Bail and Firearms Act are also being reviewed as part of the government's legislative push to tackle violence. The Prime Minister outlined the plans while speaking at the funeral for 5 Clarendon residents who were murdered by a relative at home in Cocopiece in the parish. The case, he said, is a reminder of what needs fixing in the country.
The perpetrator came to the attention of law enforcement before this. There was no follow-up intervention to determine whether or not this person would commit an act in the future. But that is just how our system is. But we have to change that. So right now, we will have to develop a new way of identifying violent perpetrators in our society and getting them into programs much earlier.
Mr. Holness added that while persons who feel wronged in disputes must feel and see that justice has been done, he has heard the utterances of some people since the attack on the Clarendon family took place, and he's worried that Jamaicans have not learned enough from this case.
I am not quite convinced that we have learned the lessons that we need to learn about violence. I'm not convinced. And I'm saying it here for all of you who are listening, that the government will act in a decisive way to change the structure of our legal system and to give greater attention. But ultimately, it comes down to our heart. What do we believe in our heart? Are we willing to forgive?
Dwayne Anderson, TVJ News.
More appeals this afternoon for affordable housing solutions to be provided for middle-income earners in the island. It comes on the heels of the handing over ceremony for Phase 1 of the Ruthven Housing Project in St. Andrew. More in this report.
Political commentator Dr. Nadine Spence again raising concerns over the Ruthven housing development in St. Andrew. The cost of the units has been at the center of controversy in recent times. The price varies from between $27.7 million to $37.7 million.
People are not trying to leave because they're done with Jamaica, People are leaving, and as soon as they get the opportunity to, they buy the house that they want. They fix up their parents' house. They start a business. They put a taxi or two on the road. So people want to leave because they do not feel as if when they stay here, they are improving their possibilities and they are creating more opportunities for themselves.
Another issue, the mass migration of the middle class. It's something businessman and social commentator Howard Mitchell believes the government needs to solve.
We need to address the low-income nature of the economy and find out how we can change that structurally. It has to do with education, it has to do with skills training, but it also has to do with what we are producing and how we produce it.
It comes at a time when the country is celebrating 60 years of independence, which is why Mr. Spence believes now is the time for the government to act.
There are a group of people in this country who can manage, but there are also the vast majority of people, including those people who would count as the middle class, cannot survive and are not surviving. So do I encourage the young people who I know to stay? No, I don't. Because encouraging them to stay, subjecting them to a life of poverty or scraping by.
Cody Ann Barrett for TVJ News.
And we now go to Cody Ann Barrett with the Business Minute.
In the world of business, JMMB Holding Company SRL, a subsidiary of JMMB Group Limited, has acquired 100% shareholding in Dominican Republic-based Banco Multiple Bell Bank SA, marking its entry into the Spanish-speaking market's commercial banking sector. Details around the price JMMB paid for the bank to acquire the tangible and intangible assets of Bell Bank were not disclosed, but the financial conglomerate says it has received approval to merge the said entity with the majority-owned Banco Ahorro y Credito JMMB Bank SA. The approval for Bell Bank's merger with the institution, in which it acquired 90% equity back in 2014, took effect on July 28, 2022. In business internationally, U.S. employers added more than 500,000 jobs in July, and the unemployment rate dropped. The jobless rate ticked down from 3.6% to 3.5% as restaurants, bars, and other firms continue to add workers. The Labor Department report was far stronger than expected after recent data showed the U.S. economy continuing to shrink. And coming up in the Business Review, if you could make your own unique fragrance, would you? Well, one perfumery is offering just that. Tune in this Sunday at 7 p.m. to find out how. That's it for the Business Minute this week. I'm Cody Ann Barrett.
And it's time now for the top regional and international stories with Sandy Williams.
In regional news, the Pan American Health Organization PAHO has published updated recommendations on the treatment of leishmaniasis, a neglected infectious disease that in its most serious form and if left untreated is fatal in 90% of cases. Leishmaniasis is caused by parasites that are transmitted through the bite of infected female sandflies, commonly known as Chiclera. PAHO said the disease is directly linked to poverty, but its elimination initiative seeks to support countries in the region to treat at least 90% of patients diagnosed with cutaneous leishmaniasis and to reduce the fatality rate of visceral leishmaniasis by 50% by 2030. On the international scene, 10 miners have been trapped in a flooded coal mine in northern Mexico for over 24 hours as rescuers battle to reach them. The incident was reported Wednesday afternoon when the miners encountered an abandoned tunnel with water that flooded the mine. The Civil Protection says rescuers managed to extract 5 people from the mine on Wednesday and are now working to pump water out of the flooded area. And those were the top regional and international stories. I'm Sandy Williams.
And we head to a quick break. When we come back, we'll have your midday sports report. Jermaine Brown is here standing by.